Hello guys and gals and welcome! Welcome. Delicious. So today we're going to be going over another legendary aspect. I'm actually pretty close to finishing all of the basic aspects, the ones that are basically for all characters. And I'll start going over individual class aspects next. But let's finish covering up the basic aspects first before we dive into the rest. Now, the one that we're going to be covering today is called the aspect of the Expectant. Now, this is a little bit of a strange one. It's not necessarily my personal favorite, but it could be part of a particular rotation to get you some interesting damage bonuses. So basically what you do with this particular aspect is you have to kind of like get a rotation going to really get the full damage bonus of this. Now, you can get a higher version of it, one that is, you know, like a higher percentage per hit, but as far as I'm aware, the cap on this one, I don't think goes any higher than 30% times. We'll go check that out before we complete the video, but that's basically how this one works. Now, the aspect of the Expectant is a offensive aspect, and because it's an offensive aspect, it is capable of being used on the glove slot, amulet, both rings, pretty much all your weapons, one-handed and two-handed. Now, if you pull up Diablo 4.life, you can always see where you can gamble this by using the gambling tool, and it also shows you what slots it goes into. So if you type in the Expectant, it's going to pop up right here. And as you can see here, the most optimal is offhands, necromancer, sorcerer. And on top of this, it shows you that it is gloves, offhand, one-hand, two-handed weapon, ring, and amulet. So, not bad. Now, if you put this ring on, what you're going to notice is when you attack with a basic skill, you're going to get a little bonus here. And as you increase that bonus to the maximum value of 30, it's going to give you a 30% times multiplier for your next core skill. Now, in this particular case, I'm not using a core skill, so it doesn't really help me out very much. I'm using only basic skills, but just for sake of argument, let's go ahead and pull in a double swing just for this video, and I'm going to show you how you would have to use this. So you're going to attack until you have your 30%, and then double swing. Attack, 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 double swing. Attack, 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 double swing. And in this way, what you're doing is you're building a rotation around this particular item. If you're a character that utilizes your basic skill a lot, along with your double swing, it's kind of nice. The only thing that I really don't like about this aspect, and this is my personal opinion, is that the aspect of the Expectant doesn't really do very good, like, multi-hit. Like, a lot of the times when I use my core skill, my personal choice on this is I like to use my core skill several times when I use my core skill. So whenever I'm building, I like to attack, you know, like 3, 4, 5, 6 times, like, with my core skill. As many times as my resource will allow. But the thing about this aspect is that it kind of requires you to do this rotation. So you've got to attack, you know, a certain number of times. Even if you have the optimal one, which is a 10% per attack, that's still going to take you 3 attacks to hit your 30%. So you're going to have to go 1, 2, 3, core, 1, 2, 3, core, 1, 2, 3, core, 1, 2, 3, core. And it's a little annoying. Now, if we take this aspect off real quick, I can show you whether or not it does actually increase when you put it on an amulet or a two-handed weapon. And I think if I remember correctly with this particular aspect, the percentage that you gain per strike increases, but not the maximum percentage of 30% times. So it doesn't actually help to put it on a two-handed weapon. In fact, I think it's a little bit of a waste. But all you really have to do to check this at any time is just go ahead and rip it off, and then once you've ripped it off, take your two-handed weapon, like for instance your little mace here, and you're going to take your aspect of the Expectant and put it up here, and you can look at the preview. And as you can see here, the 30% times stays at 30% times, so the maximum doesn't increase. However, the amount that you get per strike does go up by 10%, so you can add up with 20% per strike. Now what this means is that you would be able to get away with only, what, 2 basic skills instead of 3. So instead of it taking 3 strikes to hit that 30%, it's only going to take 2 strikes to hit the 30%. So if you were in a situation where you wanted something more like a 1-2 core, 1-2 core, 1-2 core, instead of a 1-2-3 core, 1-2-3 core, 1-2-3 core, it's a little more interesting that way. I don't particularly like this one, to be perfectly honest. I think that having to stay by a strict rotation to get this additional damage bonus isn't really the most amazing. And unless your build is kind of set up that way in advance, like if it's already that way, then it's a little bit better. But the problem is that if you've got to like change the way that you're doing things to get the most benefit out of this aspect, I don't really think it's a good idea. It's definitely one of those aspects that can give you a decent little damage bump. And if you are somebody like a Hoda Barbarian, it might actually be an optimal aspect for you, because with Hoda, you generally spam Bash to get the free overpower, and then once you spam Bash to get the free overpower, then of course you get your big hit, right? So this would basically give you a way to add an additional 30% times multiplier onto something like Hoda that is already within that kind of a rotation. And that's basically what I'm trying to say, is that if you already have a rotation that is set up that it's very similar to the way that this aspect works, then it might be a good aspect for you. But you also have to consider, is there anything else that might give me better damage bonuses than what this one is giving me? Is there anything out there that might give me a more constant damage bonus, as opposed to something that's going to be intermittent depending on how my attack cycle is working? Like, if I don't follow my specific attack cycle, am I going to be punished for it? You know what I mean? Things like the aspect of the Conceited, which gives you damage bonus when you have a barrier. Things like Edge Masters, which gives you a really nice bonus when you're at full resource. And comparatively, if we compared these two aspects to each other, the Edgemasters aspect is far superior in my situation, because number one, I'm not using a core skill, and number two, it gives me a flat 40% bonus instead of 30, which is 10% more multiplier, but also on top of that is always active for me, instead of being only active sometimes. And that's kind of how you have to look at things. You have to look at things under the assumption of, is it going to be always active? And if it's not going to be always active, what's the frequency? Like, can I make it always active? And what other aspects could I be using in this slot that might be always active? You know, as a barbarian, you might have a little room for it, because barbarians are obviously pretty rich on aspect slots. They've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 offensive aspect slots, whereas other characters like a necromancer with a two-handed scythe, for instance, or a two-handed, you know, greatsword like a grandfather, is rather limited on aspect slots, and so working in something like the aspect of the Expectant might not be so easy. I think that's pretty much it for this, for a particular aspect. I don't know. I don't know about this one. I think I've worked it into some of my builds, but most of them, not so much. Anyway, as always, I do appreciate you guys and gals watching my videos, even when we're just talking about a simple aspect like the aspect of the Expectant. And as always, keep watching.